Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kennedy from the Backstage with Kennedy podcast. I got a guest today all the way from Vancouver. You know I love my Canadian musicians, and we got a Canadian musician here today, Mr. Ford Pier. How you doing today, Ford?
Real good, Kennedy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's the COVID situation out there? I know that we got it pretty rough out here in Toronto, but what's it like out in Vancouver?
Oh, I don't think that it's any better than any place else, really. The most recent thing is giving everybody a first shot as quickly as possible and then waiting 16 weeks.
Oh.
Thinking that by then we might have enough to give everybody a second shot, but
yeah.
There's no evidence that that's going to work. That's not necessarily the operating instructions on the bottle or anything. So
yeah,
it's a strategy which is being devised to produce a number of people who have had a needle in their arm.
Yeah.
As far as actually, helping anybody out or keeping anybody alive or reducing wait times for surgeries or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be over when it's over. And
Absolutely.
when it's over, there will be such a cry of joy.
I think a lot of musicians can agree. I know I can say that for sure. It sounds like I think about it every day. I think I'm starting to dream about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So you speak of COVID. You actually you raised some money with the CD for like COVID in Vancouver. Just kind of helping people get back on their feet and stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I did a short run of sort of handmade and numbered CDs, which I just sort of sold online through direct channels to send a little bit of money downtown. Now that was pretty early days in all of this, and nobody really knew what shape it was going to take. How nobody knew whether we were still going to be living with it now. Like this was in maybe it was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
And I have friends who live on the downtown east side, and I couldn't go down there, check on them, see how they were doing. People who work down there. So any sort of relief efforts, because those people are some of the last to be serviced in the country, let alone this city. And there's a lot of them, and they do need a lot of help. And so it was my feeling that something which was coming on in such a way as to destabilize people, I'm doing okay. I got an apartment. I got a wife. I got a couple of cats. If I have to stay home from work, then there are mechanisms in place that I can take advantage of so that we don't get kicked out. But people down there don't have access to those sorts of things. So I did a little research, and I asked some friends of mine who work in that racket, where is money going to be best directed here? And I don't have a whole lot of resources at my command, but that was something that I could do, because at that point there was no physical release of the album, and I thought that there were, just enough people out there who were enough into what I have to offer that they would think that it was a cool thing to have this, special edition of the record before there were any other hard copies, and they'd be, doing a good thing, helping out a little bit.
I really like that.
It wasn't a lot of money that I raised. It was like $1,000 or whatever. But as I say, it was early days, and it was, who knew what was going to happen.
Absolutely. I like the idea of charitable, donating to charities through your music. I think that's a really cool thing. People are starting to do that a little over here with with the music venues, and helping with homelessness and such during this pandemic. And I think it's a wicked idea, because Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in the punk and hardcore scene in the 1980s, and it was something that a lot of people would do. There were a lot of shows that were benefits, or you would get in for $5 or $4 with a can of food that would go to the food bank, that type of thing. That was very, very common. And groups like DOA, of course, made it a regular practice to be, releasing a benefit single
yeah,
to go to help striking miners
yeah.
in the UK, or the free the five benefit single to pay for legal costs for the Squamish Five.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, just sort of putting your money where your mouth is, and being able to contribute something positive with with what you have on hand. It really doesn't take a lot, like you don't even have to like go and volunteer or march around someplace or wear a picket sign. Just as like, okay, well, this is something that I do. How can I just sort of make a slight turn in the steering wheel here to put this on a course which is going to create some benefit for somebody who isn't me.
I feel that. So you were obviously in some pretty cool bands in the past. What kind of made you switch the tide up and, slow it down and do something on your own? It is still got that little bit of a band sound to it because you didn't go straight acoustic like I find a lot of uh, former punk musicians have done, is they just go straight to the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you kind of changed it up. What made you go in that direction, and how nice has it been for you throughout this process?
Oh, well, I mean, like, uh, really, I always just sort of wanted to be in bands, and that's where my sensibility was. Uh, that's that's what my I think like a band as opposed to a singer-songwriter. I always have. And the first band that I really started touring a whole lot in was like a sort of a alt country, before it was called alt country band, cowpunk band,
Mhm.
which was very much a songwriter's band. And my greatest worry throughout the time that I was in that group is like, I want to write, but I don't necessarily want to write like this. The main writer in the band had a very he had a style which I felt might exert a little bit too much of an influence on me if I stayed in that situation.
Mhm.
So really, the part of being in a band at that point that appealed to me was just getting out on the road, throwing a party for everybody who came and paid their money, and just enjoying myself playing live. While the writing, I don't know, I had to think about it for a while. And I did it for a long time before I got good at it.
Yep.
But when I started spending less time playing in bands and more time playing on my own, it was still very much like the song comes first. The song comes first. It's just that in writing a song, I tend to think about it as being uh, a band thing as opposed to a person thing, a singer-songwriter thing.
Absolutely. So, one thing that really stood out to me in your songs was a lot of the words you use. I actually had to look them up and figure out what they were. Um, there, you used a lot of words that I've never heard, and a lot of big words with multiple meanings and such. Um, do you do a lot of reading? Is that how you got to that point where you're
Yeah,
putting that in
I
song?
read a lot. I've gone through different periods in my life where I've read a lot or
Yeah.
not so much, or I don't know. It comes and goes, but that was something which I guess became part of my my style, if I have a style, pretty early on. Is that I decided to um, I decided to write the way that I spoke
Yeah.
rather than any sort of a, like lyric language
Yeah.
or enriched language or whatever. Not so much out of a desire to express myself in my voice, which
Yeah.
is something that I really have no interest in doing, but because I thought that it was kind of funny,
Hmm.
because sometimes you don't, hear a couple of words like the ones that you're talking about
Yeah.
in a pop song or whatever. I mainly, more than anything else, I thought that it was like kind of funny
Yeah.
and humor. I'd say is like kind of a part of what I do as well. So I've moved along from that, and there's there have been times when I've kind of dabbled in writing in the voice of a character, when the use of a particular word would be completely inappropriate, and I wouldn't use the sorts of words that you're talking about, but I know the ones that you mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me, it's just sort of a laugh to
It's
bring those words in to be part of an unexpected rhyme or something like that. It keeps me interested, and so hopefully keeps the listener interested.
it's kind of a breath of fresh air to hear music. I know that a lot of musicians do dumb down their music when they sing it so that it appeals to the masses. But it was kind of nice that you know, added a little bit of flavor into it with using legitimately great words.
Oh,
That's cool.
I'm glad I'm glad that reached out to you.
Hey, no worries. So can you tell the people a little bit about this upcoming project, what to expect, when it's coming out, all those details?
Well, the one that we were talking about before that was given that little bit of a pre-release, like that's out now.
Yeah.
It's it's available, and one day I'll be able to tour it again. I had a band that was playing with me. We were called the Vengeance Trio for about 10 years, and we did a fair amount of touring throughout Canada and the United States, and we just didn't have time to commit. Like being a band is quite a different thing than being a touring solo act. There's a lot of things about it costs a lot less. It costs a lot less, like if time is money and you don't have to wait for the time that it takes for 3 showers, like after one, you're kind of on your way, then, already you haven't eaten breakfast yet and you're saving money. And it was, I wanted to get out and tour more often than was possible with the band. And so I made some calls and sent some emails and started doing it more myself, which
Okay.
I didn't used to enjoy so much, but which I developed a little bit of a taste for again after having left it for a long time. And it also got me writing in a way again, which was, a song that one guy can deliver rather than, needing the drum part or the bass line as a counter melody to really make the song signify, which
Hmm.
is the way that a lot of that band's stuff was constructed. So this record, in a way, came about so that I could start touring again, and uh, I had started doing that, started going back to Europe solo, and these, it was working out pretty well, and then, well, things happened.
Yeah.
So right now there's an artifact of the the first batch of songs that were written for this next, phase in my development as a performing artist, and I'll pick that right up as soon as am allowed to travel again.
Perfect.
And yeah.
Perfect. So the situation with COVID, obviously for bands, it's been a real struggle.
Yeah,
It's been a struggle for everybody, but for bands to get together and practice and such, it's been a really big
sure.
struggle.
Yeah.
Uh, Being that this is a solo project, do you find it's kind of like it benefits in a way that you are able to, really buckle down and just play by yourself and refine your skills, refine the notes and the songs and stuff as you just every day because you have that opportunity?
I have had that opportunity, and I could have done that if I wanted to, for sure. But um, I have actually kind of gone out of my way during this period to not do that, to
Okay.
not do a whole lot of writing. I'm somebody who can always find time to write or whatever. The writing is always going to, assert itself. It's going to be the boss. I'm not going to be able to enjoy myself going out for dinner or drinks with friends or whatever if I have some writing which needs to,
Yeah.
its way out into the world. And I'm not somebody who, puts in office hours on it or whatever. I kind of wait for the idea to
Yeah.
be tugging on my sleeve, and I can't ignore it, and I have to go and I have to let it out, and then I take it out into the world and play it as best as I can. But during this period, it just sort of seemed like, well, if that happens, that happens, but I'm not going to, buckle down and use this as an opportunity to write more than I would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed as though the real gift of this time was to have more time to listen to other people.
Okay.
Listen to other records and to read other books and, just to listen to other people rather than, I don't know. It's kind of a funny idea that, you would be given a whole bunch of time that you didn't think that you were going to have.
Yeah.
And just to like spend it on yourself.
Yeah. It's quite.
I plenty of time on myself. It's a compulsion. But this, that extra time, that was a good time to introduce oneself to new things, or I've always wondered about this. Well, now you got time to do it. Now you got no excuse. So no, I did not. I don't have a COVID album in the works or anything like that. I did a little home recording and I finished some things, but nowhere near the amount of work have I put in. As like a lot of people that I know are gonna come out of this period with like a fucking box set.
Yeah. It'll be exciting to see what people do in regards to that for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really strange once live music starts happening again. It's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
It's in towns like Vancouver where most of the venues put on. There's not a whole lot of in-house booking, and they work with promoters. And promoters are going to be just like slammed because everybody is going to want back out on the road. There's going to be a whole bunch of shows happening that were supposed to be happening in May of last year. And, like the artists have kept the deposits because they don't want to totally give up on it and give the money back, because what are they going to live on otherwise? But now that's money that they've spent. Yeah. So they're going to be touring more.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the venues in North America and in Europe, I hope that is in Europe. There's a lot more state funding for the type of circuit that I work on or whatever. But it's in all likelihood a lot of those places haven't been able to weather a whole period where they haven't been allowed to have people in or whatever. So there's going to be fewer stages for people to play, and it's not as though anybody is going to have any more money to spend. So it's going to be a very, very slammed and super competitive, not competitive necessarily, because
but people are going to be trying to get on stages as much as they can.
There's going to be so many bands, performers of all kinds on tours, and that's just rock bands. I mean, like independent rock bands, bar bands, and string quartets and symphony orchestras and community theater and stand-up comedians, and there's going to be a a real push for everybody's entertainment dollar. And I think in a lot of ways that's going to be every bit as destructive as a period when nobody can play, when everybody's trying to play at once.
100%. I got one last question.
I think that like there are some nefarious forces within the entertainment industry who are going to use that to try and drive some people's value as performers down. It's like, hey, man, there's a lot of people on tour right now. This is all the money that we have for a Tuesday night. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
So I like to spotlight music venues every single show. And the reason I do that is obviously they are struggling right now. So is there a specific venue that you've played at or that you like to go to a lot that you'd like to give a shout out to? And do you have any stories about that venue?
Well, I don't know. The first one that springs to my mind is just this bar that I go to a lot because I like the people who run it and who work there, and friends of mine go there. And if there's somebody hanging out there that I know, then we will have a conversation. And if there isn't, then I'll just sit there and read a book, have a beer, and leave. Mm-hmm. And they do shows occasionally, but it's not, what they're for. And those shows are always free. And I think it was 2 years ago I did a residency there of, like every Wednesday in January. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the songs that wound up on Gormful and Maya on the new record were debuted there. And I've been there a couple of times since they were allowed to reopen at a fraction of their regular capacity. And mm-hmm. There's people there, but not the way that it was. And so I guess I'll say hello to the Lido.
Perfect.
On Broadway in Vancouver.
Well, when everything opens up, all my friends from the western side of Canada, all my friends that are touring over to the west side of Canada in the future, make sure you go to the Lido then, all right? Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up really quick. I just want to give a quick shout out to my buddies, Bar Down Lager from Revive the Rose. They got their own beer, and it's a fantastic beer, so definitely try that one out. Also, Hot Stuff Hot Sauce. Thank you for your support all this time, guys. Thank you, Ford Pier, for coming on the podcast, man. I hope you have yourself a great day, and you stay safe, all right, bro?
You too, Kennedy. Thanks for talking to me. Cheers.
Thank you for.
Buns, check.
Hot dogs, mustard, check.
Ketchup.
Hot stuff. Nah.
Where's the hot stuff? I didn't bring any.
Yeah.
So good with the hot stuff? Very good with the hot stuff.